Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. We're going to do the season in review of the 1986 national finalist team. This team went 13-1 during that 1986 season, making it all the way to the championship game of the Division III playoffs. Joining me today is Robb Disbennett, who was in his first year as a coach on that staff, and also Jeff Braxton, who was a junior on the offensive line during that season, and Tom Kress, who was a senior on that defensive side of the ball, who I'd say had a pretty good season that year, to say the least.
Say the least.
Let's kind of start our conversation. Let's look a year ahead, back to that 1985 season. You guys made a run to the NCAA playoffs. Was a quarterfinalist team. Robb, you were a quarterback of the team. That was your senior year. Take me a little bit back to that team and how important was that in kind of building towards that following year to 1986?
Well, actually, it was a culmination of 4 years, to be honest with you, getting to 86. I mean, I distinctly remember even coming here to visit in 1982. This was May of 82. I sat down in Coach McGlinchey's office with two other recruits who were seniors from my school. I was actually a transfer, football transfer, but I hadn't played football in college. And I remember, like it was yesterday, Coach McGlinchey saying this was going to be his first year as the head football coach, saying we're going to win a national championship here. And I said, I'm in. Let's do it. So it wasn't. I mean, and in '83, his second year as the head coach, we lost in the semifinals here at Salisbury to Union by 2 points, 23-21. So we had almost got there his second year, and then my senior year we lost it was a torrential rain downpour at Gettysburg. Unfortunate that we played in those circumstances. We were a faster, more athletic team, and the weather kind of fit their style more than ours. So I can't say it was the 1985 season that set up the 1986 season. I think it was a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of vision by Coach McGlinchey, who instilled that probably in every guy that played for him. I don't think there was a person that didn't believe that we weren't going to end up there one day, and even looking back over the course of my career and then the 86 season, just looking at the games, like, I know Cyrill, you mentioned the first two games we had to come from behind to win against, Sylvia Post, who probably has beat us more than we had beaten them going up to that point. We were playing them at home, and then even going through that season, looking at the Montclair State game was the other crucial game, and that was against, I don't know if you guys remember this, Walter Briggs, who was
Briggs.
Cyrill, I don't even know if you know this. He was the rifleman in All the Right Moves, the movie with Tom Cruise, who was the quarterback for Montclair State, and that's he could sling it. The rifleman was that's an understatement.
He played like 4 years for the Jets. He made it to the big show. He played 3 or 4 years with the Jets, and we gave up like 400 yards between the 20s, but nothing in the end zone, baby. Only one time did he get in.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable game. So there was a lot of adversity, but we were built for through Coach McGlinchey's competitive spirit and his never give up attitude. So, I really can't look at the 85 season as what set up the 86 season. It was more a culmination of a lot of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of investment by a lot of people going all the way up to that year. It just culminated in that great run.
Now, Tom and Jeff, let's go into camp a little bit. How was camp that year? Can you guys kind of look back at those kind of early parts of the season where could you see something special kind of brewing?
I'll tell you this, our camps were very competitive. They were very tough. I know, Coach, back then we could go 3 days, And trust me, Coach McGlinchey took advantage of every single ounce of time we were out in the field.
The kids today would not survive
They would
week.
not.
1 week. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Rob. We were very competitive. We competed a lot on the field, offense, defense. But one thing we did was we cared about each other, and we knew we needed each other. And one thing that Coach McGlinchey did, man, he did a great job in motivating me. I came in just kind of like Rob did. I was and Tom, I was a transfer from Westchester. I came in '83, and it's funny that the guy that took me on my tour, who was my host, was Sherman Wood. And, I also seen Coach McGlinchey's office, and he had a vision. And, man, that guy, one thing, I love Coach McGlinchey, probably the best coach I've ever played for. And he could sell swamp to a blind person in Nevada. I mean, he would motivate you. He'd get that tooth would be showing, and that face would be showing, and the spit would be flying. And he had me so motivated. So we competed. I mean, every practice was like a game when we practiced. And I think because Coach McGlinchey created that kind of competition, when we got to the game, his practices were much harder than the game. So when we got to the game, we were ready to play. He was very meticulous as far as technique. You had to take the right step. You got to be in the right stance. He was a great teacher, a great motivator, man. And I'll tell you this, man, I was blessed to have played for such a great coach.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I echo that 100%. It really, Cyrill, it is a culmination of 3 or 4 years because, I came out of East Carolina, same thing. We had a bunch of guys who were just extremely talented all at the same time. But one of the reasons I went there is because they lost to Union in the semifinals, and and Coach McGlinchey could talk you in the guy was just amazing. And we had just a bunch of talented guys that all kind of culminating at the same time. To be honest with you, that first year I played, the '84, that might have been our most talented team. We went 6-3 because we ran into a couple of buzzsaws and didn't play very well. But, to Rob's point, we played Gettysburg on a dry field. We beat them 9 out of 10 times, easily. The kind of the drive that Coach Mike brought to the table, the talent that we had, and to Rob's point, man, it was a grind. You had to want to be there, and we had a bunch of guys who wanted to be there, and then that just made Saturday fun, man. It was just an amazing how much the infection you had when you got out on the field and wanted to play. Back in those days, SSC football. So very cool.
You guys talked about it was fun to get out there and play. But I'm sure those first couple of games were a little bit nerve-wracking, especially against CW Post, where Robbie said they might have beat you guys a little bit more than you guys beat them. But, you guys came back against them and also Parham. You guys were down at halftime. The defense did not give up any points during those games. A lot of good runs and good passes during those games. Any guys can look back at those games and kind of set the tone for the rest of the year? You're
right. We were down both games. Your defense didn't play very well, initially, but we kind of got it together. My bad in Parham. I don't know if you go look him up. A guy named Chris Warren played for Parham, and I had him on my responsibility on an option. Took the quarterback. He went about 84 yards. You have never seen Coach Mike as mad as he was. He didn't get another yard after that on my side of the ball. But we defense settled in, offense, tremendously as they always did. One of the big questions, that year was replacing an All-American, just replacing Robb, Kevin White, but that guy came in and just was, cool as a cucumber. Whether he showed it or not, I don't know. But, he had Robb to coach him, but he was cool as a cucumber. And, he got us 17 points against Parham. We only gave up 14. And, we turned the ball over. We had penalties. We made mistakes, but we were able to kind of work our way through those first couple of games to kind of find our rhythm.
Yeah, the one thing about it, I was going to say that. I mean, you had some growing pains with first-year quarterback starting, so somebody else had to carry the load. And, thank goodness we had Mike Copa, who had, again, the funny thing about Mike, I can remember us staying on him all the time about getting in the weight room. But that sucker, man, when it came Saturday and the lights came on, he would ball, and he had an awesome year, and he had Frank Oliver. We had an awesome ground game, so Kevin didn't have to carry the team on his shoulders. You know, what we tried to do with him, just manage the game. You know, don't make a stupid mistake, and, you know, just keep us in the ball game. And the running game was phenomenal that season. I mean, that's really what the difference was. If you look at between, I think in '85, and, you know, we were a lot more balanced as an offense, you know, from run and pass. In '86, we were, I would think we were more predominantly run oriented. We knew we had to run the football to be successful in '86. And we had a veteran offensive line too.
I was about to say, a great O-line, including Mr. Braxton, and I think you had Donald Washington, Mike Copa, Frank Oliver, and there was a freshman. I can't remember the freshman's name. He also got a ton of carries that year. But the O-line and the offensive, you know, the backfield, man, Joe, they were just phenomenal. I mean, you know, you look up and you grounded out 300 yards of offense on the ground, man.
Yeah, you know, I just had to keep Kevin. The one thing about Kevin, I mean, he never got too high, never got too low. You know, one thing he didn't beat himself up. You know, he learned from his mistakes, and he certainly didn't want to let the team down. He just wanted his part. And he was a phenomenal athlete in high school too.
Yeah,
you know, and punted for us as well. Yeah,
that's right.
Let me take you through some of these stats of on the offensive side of the ball, at least to start off. Copa, you know, you said he was a big part of the offense, to say the least. He had 245 carries for 18-12 on the ground, with 19 touchdowns during that year. Washington had 127 carries as well, with 669 yards and 7 touchdowns. Oliver, 144 carries with 611 yards, 9 touchdowns. So three people in the backfield that could carry the ball, carry the rock 100-plus times during the season is pretty special to see, to help a young quarterback kind of get his legs underneath him.
Yeah, and that took the pressure off of him too, which was a good thing.
Jeff, did you see that cohesion with the offense early on, and it kind of helped push towards the rest of the
we, you know, those guys, Robb hit around the head. We were, as an offensive line, we were very, very much together. You know, Charlie Christian, Jeff Cranford. You know, we had Rick Dowd, Pat Richards.
Pat Richards, yep.
Pat Richards was, you know, played next to me, and then you know, Georgie.
Who were all veterans. I mean, they had 4 of those 5 that started the year before, I think.
Yep. I had played the year before. We all played. You're right. And then, you know, Mike Copa. I want to say this about Mike Copa. We're playing against UDC, and they are running. We're beating them, but they are running their mouths. You know, they're like, yeah, bye. Oh, that guy back there can't run, and they were talking junk to me and everything. You know, because they were D2. And we were D3, and, you know, I was playing with a chip on my shoulder. I was like, you know what? That dude's getting ready to break a long run, and none of your dudes can catch him. So he broke this one run out on the edge, and they all had the angle on Mike Copa. And Mike Copa, like you said, I don't know, they didn't put him in the weight room or anything. But when it came on a Saturday, that dude took off, and he scored from, like, I don't know, it was 30 or 40 yards out. And I looked at the DB. I was like, y'all need to think about what y'all talking about. But we had a lot of cohesion. I'll tell you this about the Parham game, and thank God for Tom Kress and the defense. That must have been the hottest game I had ever played in. It was 95 degrees, but it felt like 120 index. And thank God for Donald Washington scoring that touchdown at the end, because I didn't want to say anything to anybody, but I was about dead after that game. And then the CW post game, we beat them. I don't know if you remember this, Tom or Rob. We had lost to them up there in '85.
Yeah.
And a guy ran down the sideline and yelled something to Coach McGlinchey, hey, you need to get your guys on the weights. So that whole offseason, all I saw was Coach McGlinchey yelling at me, did you hear what he said to you, Braxton? Get on the weights. And, man, I was in, you know, back then, when you said something to a kid, you didn't get mad at the coach. You took it personal. So I'm in there adding extra weight on there and just lifting and going crazy and everything. But that, you know, Rob made a great point. That 1985 season and the seasons before motivated us to be great. And so I knew that when I played against that same dude next year, when they came down to our place, I tried to pancake him, and then I told him he needed to get on the weights. So it was that season, the 85 season, the 86 season, it was just like a stepping stone to where we were going to end up at the end of the season.
CW Post had also just dropped from Division II, I believe. I thought they were so they still had scholarship kids, and we were playing them
exactly
early on.
Yep.
The other thing too, talking about the offense, and the defense too. Quite honestly, everybody believed.
Yeah,
and that's the most important thing. Is that when I first got there, I didn't know what coach said wing T. I was like, I don't know what a wing T is. I mean, what the heck is that? I mean, I only played quarterback my senior year in high school, and I think they just made up stuff just because I could run around a little bit and throw the ball. So I had no clue about any offensive or wing T. And what do you run? Yeah, we run the wing T. What the heck? I don't know what it is. I'm just doing what they tell me to do. But as we got more successful, and by the time you get to 86, with all the success we had running that offense, I mean, there wasn't any doubt that all we had to do was put the guys in the right place and get the guys that could run with the ball, and everybody believed in what they were doing. So the cohesion was there, and the belief was there, and in the system, which that's
absolutely.
It's kind of, quite honestly, it's the same as what we do now. Not the same, but the triple option. Not everybody runs that, but our kids believe in it and believe in the system, and they believe in the coaching staff. So there's a lot of similarities between that type of scheme and system, and then I can appreciate it now, Tom, from being on the defensive side. And quite honestly, I'm never going to go back and coach offense. I'm going to stay on the defensive side. But, when you were talking about coach being meticulous and first step, and, I coached that same way defensively as I coached when I was coaching offensively in the wing T system. I do the same thing with the defense and the run fits. And, so I could see Coach McGlinchey's influence on me as a coach based on, how technical he was,
Yep.
Let me run through some of these scores of the regular season for you guys. After those first two close wins against Post and Parham, you guys rolled to an impressive 48-6 win over Frostburg, then followed up with that UDC win, 30-10. Then Glassboro State, you guys beat 28-7 before a rout of Buffalo State, 48-6. Then a very close, tough 13-6 win over Montclair State. Then a 45-7 win over Ramapo, 63-13 win over Wesley before a 21-14 win in the final regular season game against Mercyhurst.
Who I believe
D2.
Yep,
yeah.
They're a D2 PSAC
They were
school.
D2.
They are now.
But they were in the
hadn't they won the national championship at some point previously? Mercyhurst was a national power, I think, before we had played them, I think.
They were D2. They were in the Gleviac, that Michigan conference.
Yeah, so there were some absolutely tough ball games. You don't have the line scores on those games, do you, Cyrill?
Unfortunately, they're in my office.
Okay. I'm curious what the Montclair was. I can't remember. Do you guys remember the Montclair score as
13-7?
13-7.
I mean,
13-6.
Were we down? Were we up? Or what was the score at halftime? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a ball game. I mean, I don't know for that. I mean, I got seeing him run around. I mean, was scary.
Yeah. I just remember we kind of we knew they were going to be able to throw the football, and we had to figure out a way to get to him. So there's a young kid, Exus Jones, his name was. He's a freshman, and so we kind of, to be brutally honest with you, we set it up so that they would have to double team me, and we'd get Exus free. And I think he had 4 or 5 sacks, a couple of critical ones that get third down stops, that kind of thing. And the kid just he just shined. And we gave up a ton of yards between the 20s, had a couple of turnovers, and I think what was the young freshman free safety? He had Johnny Bogger. Yep, he had a key interception when they were driving, and then I can remember when Kevin and the offense went down and put it in the second time. I think we had 2 field goals and a touchdown. When they put the touchdown in, we went up 13-7, and it was just that's when we knew we were pretty good. They were the number 2 or 3 ranked team in the country. And we knew that we could compete, but that gave us the confidence to say, hey, we can play with anybody, because that's all we heard about for, 3 weeks before that game.
Right.
Yeah, you said the confidence going into that game. Tom, on the defensive side, an interception by Bulger, who had 7 interceptions that season. How important was that confidence heading towards the NCAA playoffs?
It was critical, just to really, I mean, you see them back in those days, all you really had was, reading about them in the paper or hearing about them on the news, right? It's not like the internet today. So, you hear about Central Iowa and Mount Union even back in those days, and Augustana, who was they were the big bully back in those days. So it was really critical to say, hey, this was the number 3 team in the country, and we dominated them. The offensive moved the ball and got done when they needed to get done. So it was really, it was a huge win for us, and to kind of get us to the point where we knew we could play with anybody.
And during those playoff games, you guys had games against Emory and Henry, Susquehanna, Ithaca before the final game. What was your guys' favorite memory of those playoff games?
Well, the thing about it is we were on the road all 3 games, which I was still trying to figure out how were we undefeated and had to go on the road all 3 games.
My dad's been dead for 5 years, Rob, and he's still mad about that, dude. The fact that the university would not step up and host a game, buddy.
Oh, that's what it was. That's exactly right. That's what it was.
He was so pissed about that.
To host it. That's correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
So,
You're right.
Bottom line, Cyrill, the university has to put up a proposal to host the playoff game. I don't know if it's changed anymore these days. Rob would know much better, but so, but they didn't. So we went on the road 3 weeks in a row to make all that happen. I think the big one for me was the first one. We went down there, and this
Andy
kid
Rogers.
he was leading the nation in rushing, and they were like, oh, he's going to rip us apart, and their defense is terrible, and we pretty much dominated him. And the kid had maybe 80, 90 yards, something like that. He played pretty well, and then at the end he had a key fumble with that if I recall correctly, that gave us the ball back, and then the offense took it over from there. But just winning that first one, then we knew that we could play.
Yeah, we played at Stone Castle. It was in Tennessee, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a municipal stadium.
And it was a huge great environment, great atmosphere. It was Saturday afternoon. I remember that was a nice day. It was cool. It was it was a great football game.
They had all the guys from Parham, because Parham wasn't that far away, but behind our bench, heckling us still.
The
whole time they were guys, oh, you guys suck, and blah 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 blah. So they were working us both sides of the ball.
Maybe this is my last question before we wrap up the interview. A couple more questions, actually.
Come on, man, you can't do this and not talk about the Ithaca game.
Well, I was going to bring up the Ithaca game. That game, 44-40, a shootout.
I'll start out with that. So, who I really wanted to get on this call was Matt Foster.
I would love to see Matt.
He's not a good text guy. He doesn't. I texted him earlier today. I was going to get him on there, but anyway. So first thing,
the defense was terrible, Cyrill. We suck.
Matt and I are up top. We're up in the booth, and the booth up there at Ithaca College is tight as heck. And then I even from going back up there when we were playing in the Empire 8, I remembered it. But that day, it was chilly, blue sky. All of a sudden, I don't know if you guys remember this, before when they're playing the national anthem, a seagull flies.
I remember that
down through the stadium, near the field, and so all you see is because Matt and I are looking across to our stand. You see our parents are looking up and they're pointing at the seagull. The seagulls. when they return the opening kickoff for a touchdown, we said, "Oh, maybe that wasn't a good sign."
Yeah. I tell you what I remember about the game is, just us coming back, But I tell you what, even before the game, something that really hit my heart. I think Billy Maurer's brother had died in a motorcycle accident, and we didn't know. He was our best guy as a kicker. Our backup was okay, but he was our guy. So I remember us getting on the bus, and we didn't know if he was coming. Then when he got on the bus, and he said, "You know what? My brother would have wanted me to do this."
Yep.
And I almost cried, but I knew that we had a true brotherhood that was going to go up and beat their tails. And then, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, and Rob, didn't we have lunch or dinner or something in their cafeteria?
Somewhere on their campus, yeah.
Yeah, we had it somewhere on their campus, and some of their players came by and everything, and that was probably the worst thing that could have happened. They were running their mouths, and I know for us as a group, when you ran your mouth to us, you were really going to get it during the game. So the way we battled, you know, the field was frozen. I had to change my cleats because the field was frozen. I was slipping all over the place, and Coach Ronlini was yelling at me, "Stay on your feet, Braxton, come on!" But it was a heck of a game, and I tell you, defense made some important stops, and it was an exciting game to watch. And they up in Ithaca, and Robb knows this of coaching that, they were very cocky.
Oh yeah.
They talked a lot of junk. You know, they were very proud. I think they went to the national championship the year before, so they felt like, hey, we're going back. This ragtag unit from Maryland is not going to do anything. And we got after them the whole game on offense and on defense, and ended up winning the game. So that last run by Mike Copa to score that last touchdown, even though I stumbled and fell.
What was the play? Do you remember the play?
It was 38. Was it 38 power?
I think it was counter.
Was it counter? I thought it was power. Power sweep.
Yeah, power counter.
Power counter. Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, we went down the field. They couldn't believe how fast Mike Copa was. And then Chris Holston, him and was it Nail Swag, whatever his name is, they were going at it. And then, you know, that one time he had a great catch and he flipped the ball to him at the end. I still got that tape. I watch it like every other month, and my wife gets tired of it. Can't you just leave it alone? I'm like, no, I can't leave it alone.
That's awesome. Yeah, we offensively it was a tremendous day. Field was frozen. We were terrible defensively. I just watched it, Jeff. It's funny you should say that. My father-in-law I was watching it with him and made him watch it. And I had one play, and the only play that really mattered, Cyrill, that when little number 20, they were running out the clock in essence, and he fumbled, and I recovered the fumble. That was the one positive play I had in that game. And then the offense went down and scored. We were down 38-41, and that's when they put the ball in the end zone to win the football game. So yeah, it was you know, offensively it was unbelievable. Michael, he was the best player in the country that day by far. Yeah, at any level. He was spectacular, man. You go back and watch that tape. It was, and offensively, you know, but it was a joy to watch. So,
what do you guys think was the legacy of that team? Looking back now.
Easy for me. You're talking to one of them right there, Mr. Disbennett. The legacy is Coach McGlinchey carrying down to Coach Wood, to Coach Disbennett, to the program. They were one of the 8 best teams in the country. Before this season, you know, they had a shot to be one of the 4 best, you know. And Coach, I don't know if you guys remember this or not. Coach McGlinchey used to say a lot, you got to be lucky and good, Tommy. You know, you got to be lucky and good, and you know that mix comes just at the right time, right? And so they've been good the whole time. They just waiting for that luck to turn on them and the break to go their way, and they'll win a national title. I'm 100% convinced of that. But so that's the legacy to me, is that these guys run, and I had the pleasure of seeing these guys a year ago, you know, on a very special night for me. But they run one of the best D3 programs in the country, bar none. And you know, there's 370 of them, so it's a lot harder to do that than it is at a Division I level. So kudos to Robb, kudos to Sherman and the rest of the organization, because that's the legacy of Coach Mike and those 3 or 4 years. I think a little rough in between point A and point B, but these days, you know, it's one of the best programs in the country.
I totally agree, Tom. You know, Coach McGlinchey's legacy, it's like a coaching tree. Yeah. You know, with you know, Robb and what Sherman, what you guys are doing, man, it makes me proud. Even though I had to coach against you a couple of years, it just it just makes me proud to have played at Salisbury. And every time I put my name on a resume, every time I put my name out there, the experiences that I've had at Salisbury, you know, it's amazing. They will be with me for a lifetime, and the friends that I've made, you know, playing with you guys will be with me for a lifetime. I will always remember it, and it makes me so proud to have played at Salisbury State.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that too, Cyrill, and the games. I mean, we love playing football, and that's kind of what brought us together. But for me, it was the relationships You know, it was all the, you know, and to be honest with you, that's why I love doing the golf tournament. You know, seeing these guys that come back every year, and you know, sometimes it's guys that I haven't seen in a couple of years, but when I look back and think about, you know, I can remember the games, but I remember the times. You know, I remember the celebrations. I remember the after hours parties. I remember the bus rides, the hotels. You know, the summers that we were there working out and grinding together. The investment that everybody was making for one goal. You know, playing for something that was bigger than ourselves, and you know, and still close today as we ever were then. And that's just not 1 year. That's, you know, you're playing with guys that over a course of 6 to 7 years that you cross paths with, you know, and
that's it, Rob. It's so true. I guess it was 2016. We had to get together, Cyrill, of a bunch of teams, and I had one guy I was ever afraid of at Salisbury. One guy, and he played linebacker. David Spradlin. When I first got there, the guy didn't have teeth. You know, he was some country bumpkin. You know, and he just would knock the beep out of you, right? And I saw him at this get together, and I was still scared of him, Cyrill. You know, I was still scared. So the connections that, you know, are unbelievable. You know, so it really is a brotherhood. You know, incredible group of guys over the course of time, and you know, and the legacy coming out of Coach McGlinchey that will endure forever.
Yeah, correct. We're all connected. You know, that's what's cool.
Yep.
Maybe this question would be for you, Rob. Obviously, a little bit of recency bias. You know, last year's run, you know, beating Union in the national quarterfinals or second round, sorry, and kind of getting that redemption from back in the day. Did you see kind of glimpses of this year's team of the 1986 team on this year's team?
Yeah, you know, when you make a run like this, and I mean, there's obstacles at every school and institution, you know. So, you know, when you see those programs that can just stay at the top year after year, I mean, you got to tip your hat to them. With us, all the right pieces, you know, as Tommy said too, a little luck, but all the pieces came together. You know, defensively, we were veteran on defense. We had some speed. We had some kids that transferred in offensively, some big play receivers that helped us. So all the pieces came together, and you know, there was a ton of confidence with this team. And the Union game, I mean, they had some talented kids. I mean, that was that game reminded me of the Ithaca game, to be honest with you, the way that was a high scoring back and forth, and you know, who was gonna flinch. And but we had played Union actually previously too, you know, when we were part of the Empire 8, and then they got out, then we still played them. So I had been down that road, you know, again. So I'd gotten some redemption prior to the last year. Yeah, but it, you know, again, I'm blessed. You know, the one thing that is unique about our current staff is that, you know, with Sherman and both Doug and Ryan, we've coached together for 20 years. I mean, that's rare in any program, you know, even in Division III, to have that number of people coaching together. So, you know, we kind of, you know, we feel pretty comfortable. And then our younger guys are most of the guys that played for us, so they understand what we want, and the expectation is there. And but you know, Coach Wood, he's always talking about the legacy of the alumni, that you're representing guys that have come before you. You know, and so we take a lot of pride in our alumni base, and you know, not only the coaching tree, but the guys that have played here. You know, like Tommy and Jeff, and you know, Dustin, and you know, there's numerous guys, and you know, I'm just blessed to be part of it. You know, and thankful to Coach McGlinchey for recruiting me and giving me the opportunity. You know,
this is my last question. What is one of you guys' favorite story or favorite memory of your playing careers of at Salisbury?
For me, it's the summertime. I mean, I always talk to our current kids about it. Is staying in the summer. You know, I mean, that was the best part of my 4 years of playing. Was every summer, guys that I lived with were football players, and we worked, had jobs in Salisbury or Ocean City, and we worked out. We threw the ball. We lifted together. That was the best part. And like I said, the camaraderie, and the competition and going out and fighting every day, for something, that was bigger than yourself. But yeah, I love my teammates. Love my teammates.
What about y'all?
Rob, you stole mine, so I got to go with something else. Thanks, Disbennett. You did it to me again.
I'm going to talk before the lineman. You know how
I know. I'm used to it. I blocked for you. Probably mine, other than what Rob just said about the camaraderie in the summertime and spending time working together and preparing, probably was Coach McGlinchey's stories. His stories were something like, I don't know if they were true, but he always got me with them. So he had this story about he was walking through the college center. It's nowhere near what it looks like now. And then one of the janitors walked up to him and said, "Hey, Coach, that game this upcoming week, your guys aren't going to win." And then he would make up the story, and then he would have me all worked up like I was ready to play the game right then and there. So just Coach McGlinchey's, the way he got us up, the way he got us together, the way it was like us against the world. He just was a great motivator. And that's something that I will always remember, is how he used to motivate us. We could be from anywhere. We had guys from Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Baltimore, black, white, Noel Rosas, who was he Hawaiian? Or
was he Hawaiian?
I don't know if he was Hawaiian or not.
The boy could block, I can tell you that.
I know he could. But he just brought us all together as a team, and he could motivate us and tell us stories that would have us against the world. Yeah. And I love that, man. And he just Coach McGlinchey was able to bring out the best in us. So my best was that.
Go ahead.
But probably my best, it's just the stories that he gave. Rob, you stole us. I love the summers. I stayed down every summer. That was the way we got better. We got to know each other, and we grew together as brothers. But Coach McGlinchey's stories for me, man, I can still remember them today. And I'm 50. I probably can't remember much, but I remember him motivating us to be the best we could be every day on that field.
The one advantage I had, I guess, from coaching with him was that my first year coaching, Friday night meetings were that in itself that was separate, but he would, I don't know if you guys remember his office, and he had that couch in his office. And if the meeting was at 7:00, and I was running around trying to do something and, getting ready for the meeting or whatever, if you went in there in his office, he'd be laying on that couch, and his eyes, he was already to play the game. I mean, his eyes were already glassy eyed, and he'd get himself, remember he was a wrestling coach.
Right.
So to me, it was almost like he was getting ready for a match.
Yep.
And you didn't even talk to him. From 6:30 to 7, 30 minutes before the meeting, you don't go near him, because he's getting in that mindset. And then it was like all hell was going to break loose in that meeting that night. I mean, guys would walk out of the meeting, Cyrill, this is no joke, we were ready to play Friday night.
Exactly.
After the meeting. In fact, when Jeff was talking about the stories also, like on Saturday, as a quarterback, I couldn't listen to the speech before we went back on the field. I had to separate myself. I had to go somewhere and get away from him, because I would have gotten too hyped to play. I couldn't listen to it. So I don't even know I never heard any pregame speech. I couldn't. I mean, Friday night I was all there, but Saturday before the game, I wouldn't allow myself, because emotionally I would be too high.
For me, I think it was the camp of '84 when I got there. I don't know if Rob will remember this or not, but one of the guys I got really close to really quick, God bless his soul, is Mike Mamano, good friend of Rob's, best defensive tackle ever played at Salisbury, bar none. My humble opinion, take it for what it's worth. Anyway, so I was kind of floundering. I had been a year away from the game, and they had some dude from Towson, Ron something. They thought he was all this, all that. Playing defensive end, and Mike says, "Dude, you got this." So I had to make a name for myself, Cyrill. We were playing Rob. Disbennett's running around with his little red, green, don't hit me jersey on, right? So, well, bam, I just pancaked. Coach McGlinchey just looks and does this. He left me running for about 3 hours, dude. He said, you touch my quarterback again, boy, you'll be so far off this campus, you'll need binoculars to find this place.
I think Braxton missed the block.
Oh, now you blame me.
Braxton probably missed the block.
Oh, man. So, but
Joe
yeah.
Mamano, Mike's older brother, my first game, because he was already there. We're playing Glassboro. First touchdown pass I throw, he missed the block. Guy nails me in the ribs, bruises my ribs. I'm laying on my back. Joe comes up to me and lifts me up and says, "My bad, sorry."
Yeah, so,
I went to high school with him and played with him. But.
Yep. But just like I think it was really just the kind of the infectious nature of Coach Mike and the detail. That's one of the things I carry through life with me is the detailed nature of what we went through. Another great little quibble. I was probably a couple of years ago. I said to Rob, "Send me the schedule for the summer camp. I'd like to see it." I get a little Word document, and I'm like looking at this. To Jeff's point earlier, they practice one time a day. I said, "Rob, what is this?" He's like, "Dude, these kids would never make it back in 1983, 84, because we did. We practiced. If you piss Coach Mike off, you practice 3 times a day, and you hit every time you practice.
Every time.
Full year, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but the guy was infectious. He had the group of kids that brought that kind of kindred spirit to the program and to the field, and brothers for life.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Best of luck in your guys' future. Hope you guys are staying safe, and hopefully we get to see you guys at a game. Rob, hopefully playing some games in the spring.
Hope so. All right, Cyrill.
Definitely.
Thank you
for having
Hey,
us.
guys.